Looking back, I should have realized what she meant. My mother would sometimes smile and say that I would make someone very happy. One day I asked who he was. I was beaten with a wooden spoon so hard that I couldn't sit for 2 days. My older sister, Daiuli, secretly brought ice while my younger sister, Anna, kept watch. If they were caught comforting me, they would suffer the same or worse. Our father had a very good job. When he came home, our mother would serve him a drink, take off his shoes, and give him a foot massage. He would watch the news while she served him dinner. Sometimes he would ask us to show what we had done during the day. One day, at 16 years old, I found my mother in the kitchen in tears. She was holding her pearl necklace, her makeup running, her curls not as tight as they used to be. "Mom," I called her timidly. She looked at me and smiled. "Abigail." She hugged me and sobbed on my shoulder. "You have always been my favorite, haven't you?" That day, my father arrived with several white fabrics for Daiuli's wedding dress. She had just turned 18. "It's time for you to become a woman," he declared. "It's time for you to complete yourself. Get married. You have 2 days to finish the dress." We were in shock. It was too little time for such a delicate pattern. "Father," she said timidly, "can Ebby and Anna help me?" He looked for a moment. "Of course," said the father, kissing her on the cheek. It was something new. He had never shown affection before. We returned to work, taking turns at the sewing machine. Father and mother entered the room. Mother was wearing her travel coat, something I had never seen her do in my entire life. She was no longer crying but smiling, despite the tears in her eyes. She was wearing her pearl necklace. "Your mother needs to go see your grandmother in Oregon. She is very sick," declared the father. "I will take her to the airport." We agreed and returned to work. Only later did I realize that my mother had no luggage with her. My father only returned in the early hours of the morning. Somehow, we finished the dress. "You will look beautiful on your day," I told her. She started to cry. "I don't want to get married." I tried to console her. Father called us to put the dress back on the mannequin. "Go back to your room, girls." He cleared his throat. "It was an accident. Your mother's plane crashed, and she's gone." We started to cry, but the wedding ceremony would still happen the next day as planned. That night, Daiuli came into my room after Father went to sleep. She whispered to me, "Trouble." "Why?" I whispered back. She shook her head and started to cry. The next day, a strange man entered the house. They told me to prepare Daiuli for the wedding. We assumed the man was the groom, but he said nothing. I helped Daiuli with the veil and walked behind her, helping her with the dress. The man who entered was the pastor. Father stood by the altar where the groom would be, holding out his hands to Daiuli. In one hand, a ring, and in the other, the pearl necklace I had last seen on my mother. Anna and I were so stunned and scared that we couldn't speak. Daiuli was crying silently while Father and the pastor were smiling from ear to ear. "Will there be anything else?" the pastor asked my father. "No. Choose whichever you want," said my father. Regarding Anna and me, he looked us over for a moment before taking Anna's hand. "Eb." She started to struggle and cry, but the pastor quickly silenced her with a slap. They left quickly. "Abigail," my father declared, "you're old enough to make yourself suffer. Your mother and I have some business to attend to." He took Daiuli and led her to the room. They did what you're thinking for hours. The following year, life went on as usual. Daiuli assumed the role of mother, fearing that Father would punish her. "Somehow, he always knew if we broke the rules," Daiuli told me. "He's always watching and listening, dear." I heard her sobbing when she was alone, but if I went to console her, she would punish me. She continued my lessons, but she wasn't always present, at least not mentally. 2 days ago, I found her in the bathtub. The water was red with blood. I tried to help her, but she was already gone before I could reach the emergency phone. My father came home. "Take Daiuli out of the bathtub." "I'll get help," he said. He left me alone. When he returned, he had white fabric for me to make my dress, and he gave me 2 days to finish it. I asked if I could find a new pattern online so it would be different from Daiuli's. He thought for a minute and said it was okay. He had some errands to run and would be back soon. All the websites I tried to get help from are blocked except for a few with patterns. I can't find help anywhere. But somehow I ended up here. He's coming now. I need to go. Now you can check if there is a part 2 by pressing share and more.